Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana, and we're here today with special guest, New York Times bestselling author Karen White. And she's here to share with us her second book in the Royal Street series, The House on Prytania. So have you ever moved into a house that you felt was haunted? Well, this page-turner of a story will have you not putting the book down. So Karen White is a New York Times bestselling author of more than 25 novels, including the Trad Street series, The Last Night in London, Dreams of Falling, The Night the Lights Went Out, Flight Patterns, The Sound of Glass, and many more. She has co-authored many books with New York Times bestselling authors, and she grew up in London. So let's welcome to the show, Karen White.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
What an honor it is to have you here and to talk about this book. What inspired you to write this?
Well, it's the second book in a series, which is a spin-off series from a very popular series that I wrote set in Charleston that was originally going to be set in New Orleans. I love New Orleans. I went to college in New Orleans, and I'd always planned to set my original series in New Orleans, but that was 2005. And of course, we all know what happened in August of 2005. A little storm called Katrina visited the city. So I sort of had to pivot. So I did a whole 7-book series set in Charleston. And all these years later, I was still dying to write, a full series set in New Orleans. And I had the perfect character she was a secondary character in the first series, Nola Trenham. She moves to New Orleans in the first book, in the shop on Royal Street, and she buys, as you do, your first house. Except the only one she can afford is an old cottage in the Marianne neighborhood of New Orleans. That's this side of the Wrecking Ball, and she begins to restore it. And that is how we re-meet Nola Trenham as a young woman of 26 in the shop on Royal Street. And the house in Prytania does continue her story. She's continuing the renovation, except in this book, now she is hoping to start anew, but unfortunately the house that she has bought comes with a few hangers-on to spirits from previous, residents. And one of them is not happy to have her there at all. So that sort of launches us into the house on Prytania.
Well, it's such a just really impressive read. And I think it's interesting because you hear a lot about that. There's this, story, that line that goes along where maybe someone buys a really old house and they get more than they bargained for.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah. I've always been fascinated by ghosts. And, when I first started writing, I didn't, I never planned to write anything with, a paranormal side plot. And when I first started thinking of the series, it was like the most natural thing in the world. Again, when you think New Orleans, you think, the old houses. I mean, New Orleans just screams haunted houses. It's just got so much history, so much character and ambiance. And it definitely has that sort of woo-woo feel to it. So definitely the kind of story that I wanted to tell in the series about houses with a past, I guess you could say, it was perfect for New Orleans.
So did you do a lot of research for this book?
I do. I do for all of my books. I'd love to revisit a setting, even though, like I said, I'd gone to college in New Orleans, but that was many moons ago. And of course, pre-Katrina. So things had changed greatly. I'm very lucky that I have 2 of my best friends that I met while in college are New Orleans natives. And so I've been able to go back, several times. But 2 years ago in June, I specifically made a point to do a research trip. And I like to joke that I like to suffer for my craft, meaning I made sure I ate in lots and lots of those wonderful restaurants so I could accurately portray the meals that my characters would be eating. But also, I hired a tour guide, a friend of mine who is an actual professional tour guide in New Orleans, licensed and everything. And she gave me a curated tour of the areas of the city that I really had not been familiar with before writing the book. The Marianne neighborhood, for instance, where Nola buys her Creole cottage. And really do a walking tour to get the ambiance and the flavor, and what the streets look like, what the houses look like, who are the people that live there, what are the cool gathering spots in the neighborhood. And that was worth everything, really immersing myself into the atmosphere and the neighborhood that my characters would be living in.
It must make it so that the folks that either visit there or live there feel like they're part of the story.
And that is my goal. And for me, setting is as much of a character as the actual living and breathing characters are. So it's very important that I feel it, because if I can't feel it, I can't recreate it on the pages of my books. And I do know a lot of people, after reading not just my series books, Charleston and New Orleans, but a lot of my single title books as well, because the setting is always, first and foremost, a main character. I get a lot of reader emails saying, "Oh, because of this book, that was, where we went on our vacation, because I felt that I had known it, I knew it or wanted to know it better after reading your book." And that is the biggest compliment to me.
When you were writing this book, did it feel like it was writing itself, or is it something that you had planned out?
I never plan out my books. It's funny because these are sort of mysteries and they are connected. But like all of my books, I cannot pre-plan. I cannot outline. I don't know what my characters are going to do and say until I sit down and start writing, and they sort of, lead the way. And then while I was writing this book, I had sort of a crazy, crazy year in my personal life. And I wish it had written itself. That would have made my life a lot easier. It was a bit of a struggle, but I am just so amazed and pleased at how well it turned out. And hopefully, or luckily, because again, I've had lovely reader response from the house on Prytania, and people have loved it and they're eager for the next one.
So when you were writing this book, did you feel like it was energizing you, or was it something that was just kind of pulling energy out of you?
My books, I always feel energized because I basically, to sit down, for my morning writing, that's always the hardest thing. It's just putting my rear end in the chair, and then to, pull things out of the ether. That is the hardest thing. But once I could get going, it was such a welcome relief, not to have to deal with the rest of what was going on in my life and just let the characters take over. And like reading a book, readers understand that, when you are immersed in a book, whether you're reading or writing it, you allow yourself to be transported into another life, another town, just a completely different thing than what you're experiencing. And I definitely felt that while writing The House on Prytania.
When you develop these characters, are they based on anyone you know? We can keep the names nameless.
They will never know. I never set out to do it intentionally, but I am sure that I have glommed onto certain characteristics of real people I've known. The only intentional borrowing of an actual person, and this has been going on for years. My first book came out in 2000. So my brother-in-law, who is we're big pranksters in our family, and my brother-in-law, Rich Cobelt, his name has been appearing in every single book pretty much since the beginning, but he has the claim to fame of being the plumber with a little bit of business going on in the back of his low-slung pants in the entire Trad Street series, something which he's very proud of. And because we had to leave him in Charleston, so now I've made up a cousin, Tebow Cobalt, who is his Cajun cousin who lives in New Orleans and who is now the handyman plumber for Nola in her reconstruction of her house. So yeah, we get to see, and whenever any of my readers who've read my book see that last name Cobalt, they're like, oh, wait, I know him. I know who that is. And yeah, so that's kind of a nice little Easter egg I put in my books.
That must you have this real good air of familiarity when people read that, especially knowing the story, and he must just love it.
Oh, he does. He does. He keeps threatening to come to one of my signings, dressed as a plumber. And I'm like, please don't. He is not a plumber, by the way, if I train at all. But yeah.
I'm sure people will line up to see that.
Oh, I know. I know it's a little frightening. So I've discouraged him. So.
Well, and during the time that you're writing this book, I mean, how did you balance all this? Because I know books are such a journey, especially if you've got one book done. I mean, how did you balance your life with being able to have time to write?
Right. That is the $1,000,000 question. I mean, it takes a lot of willpower, I have to say. And I think since the beginning of my writing career, I knew it's like anything you choose to do, everything has sort of a cost. You have to give up something if you want to, take on something new. For me, unfortunately, I didn't have the option of giving up stuff because what I was dealing with was basically my ailing parents and my daughter's wedding all, happening at the same time. So I couldn't really not do that stuff. I just, I got up earlier and went to bed later. That there are ways that you can figure it out. As long as you realize that it's temporary, that this isn't how you're going to be living the rest of your life, you can handle it. And I did, and I was very, very, good about saying no to a lot. I have to say, I haven't had a vacation in 5 years. Because of a lot of this, but again, it's temporary, and anything you want to do, nothing is easy, and you just kind of have to determine, how much you're willing to pay for it. And for me, it was sleep, and it worked out. So I'm very proud of this book. I'm happy to be where I am right now. Things have sort of settled down in my personal life, and I'm finally scheduled to take a vacation in July, and I cannot wait.
Well, congratulations for your vacation. That must be
Thank
long
you.
overdue.
Oh, yes, that and more. Yes.
Well, and Karen, what do you want readers to take away from your book?
You know what? Nola Trenum is a young woman who has come so far. Her background, her a little more, as a teenager in the first series, but you don't need to have read the Trad Street series to know Nola. I give you enough information, plus, the new stuff that's there in the books, including the House of Prytania. So her mother, she didn't know who her father was. Her mother sort of said, your father isn't in the picture, and she never asked about it. And then when her mother unexpectedly dies, as a 13-year-old child, she, has this name, Jack Trenum, on a piece of paper, and she gets on a bus and she travels across the country by herself on a bus at age 14 and ends up in Charleston. And that's how we meet her in the first series. So she is someone who has learned, she feels she's been abandoned by both parents. And she also had her mother because of her mother's issues. And so she's always only relied on herself. And she's very, very, very hard-headed. But she also comes with some genetic tendencies that can lead her down a bad path. She is a recovering alcoholic. And just to prove to herself that she can do it, she moves to New Orleans, which is not always the first choice of somebody who is dealing with substance abuse. And I love her because she's like my favorite heroines in the books that I have read. She's someone who fails, but she doesn't give up. She just stands up and tries again. And I love that about her. I love the strength. I mean, she thinks that she's weak, But to be able to get back up and fight harder means everything to me in terms of characters I've created or I've read about or that I know in real life. So I would love for readers to sort of see some of themselves in Nola. All of my books deal with somebody, the main character who, finds themselves in a hole that either they have dug for themselves or circumstances have dug for them, and they don't know or don't believe that they have what it takes to crawl out of this hole of circumstance. And I like to show my readers that no matter who you are, where you come from, or what you think you're capable of, you're a lot stronger than you think you are. And I would love for readers to come away from this book believing that.
Well, it's very well written. It's a book that has you on some twists and turns you don't expect. Karen, where can our listeners connect with you and be part of your community and learn more about your work?
I would love to see them. So I always send people initially to my website, and that is karen-white.com. And on that, you will see the links to my social media. I'm most active on Instagram and also Facebook, but Instagram is where I do most of the fun stuff. Yes. And people might be interested to know that while I'm on vacation, my 8-year-old Havanese dog, Sophie, will be taking over my Instagram account. So I can't wait to see what she posts.
Oh, I can't either. That'll be pretty interesting. Well, Karen, thank you so much for taking this time to be on the show with us here today.
Thank you, Marianne. I so appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Karen. It's been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your new book, The House on Prytania. If you'd like to connect with Karen, again, you can at her website, karen-white.com. The House on Prytania is available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all indie retailers. And if you don't see it on the shelf, just ask for them to order it. Remember, support our indie bookstores. Well, on that note, we're going to pause here for a quick break. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne. We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors.
With Breath Hub, you'll experience the transformative power of breath as it harmonizes your body, mind, and spirit. Recommended by experts in fitness, sports, psychology, and medicine. Meet the scientific way of being well. Breath Hub. Breathe better, live better.
Are you a coffee lover who wants to make a difference? Look no further than Fire Department Coffee, a veteran-owned business that gives back to support first responders in need. Each batch of coffee is freshly roasted right here in the USA by a dedicated team of first responders and coffee experts. So when you enjoy a cup of Fire Department coffee, you're not only drinking high-quality coffee, you're supporting members of your community. Start your day with a coffee that gives back. Visit firedepartmentcoffee.com. That's fire, DEPT, coffee.com.
Are you looking to untangle life's riddles? Discover the profound teachings of Dr. Shai Tabali, renowned philosopher, best-selling author, and your guide to self-empowerment. With methods that harmonize psychological and spiritual principles, Dr. Tabali's wisdom offers a pathway to holistic transformation. Take that first step today and join thousands globally and embrace the journey to higher consciousness. Visit shaitabali.com, that's SHAITUBALI.com now.
Are you chasing profitability yet losing fulfillment? Let me introduce you to your solution, the Relaunch Company. I'm Hillary DeCesar, an entrepreneurial performance coach, fearless leader of the Relaunch Company, here to help put the pedal to the metal and relaunch your business your way. Visit www.therelaunch.com. Take the free quiz to learn 3 steps towards waving goodbye to burnout and hello to success.
The book Terminal Cancer is a Misdiagnosis, authored by Danny Carroll, is on sale at Amazon now. Licensed psychologist and psychotherapist Tessa Antia-John Guerra commented, This is one of the most empowering books on the topic of cancer you will ever read. Award-winning author T.L. Needham commented, "This recommended book can be understood by anyone seeking answers, hope, and alternatives to a terminal diagnosis. Buy it now on Amazon.com.
Pandemonium. Fast forward 20 years. A U.S. president seizes control of all U.S. missiles, the power grid, the banking system, and every computer in America as he hides in an underground bunker. Pandemonium, a captivating sci-fi thriller where a hidden war, psychics, aliens, artificial intelligence, and transcendental love collide with the latest media technology. Pandemonium, live to all devices. Get your copy on paperback or digital. Free sample at getpsychic.org.
Hello, Dr. Cutler here. Do you experience bloating, heartburn, food craving, bowel irregularity, food sensitivities, weight issues? If you do not digest your food, you may be deficient in macronutrients, which your body needs for optimal health. DrEllenCutler.com teaches that this is an enzyme deficiency. I believe the most important supplement is a full-spectrum digestive enzyme, Dr. Ellen's Way Digestive Enzymes. Hear more about it at DrEllenCutler.com.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
I'd like to thank Jason Eastwood at Guitarfulness for sharing his inspiring music and talent with us. His music is known worldwide for cultivating atmospheres of harmony, inner peace, and clarity. Visit Jason's website at guitarfulness.com. Join his newsletter, be part of his community, and download his music. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary. A recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.